This week, Portland City Councilors elected District 1 Councilor Jamie Dunphy as the new council president. The decision came after the divided council hit a week-long deadlock, 13 rounds of voting over 3 meetings, and a threat from one councilor to sue the city.
This is just profoundly unserious at this point.
We are in a crisis. This is a crisis of leadership.
The candidates, Councilors Ilana Pertolgini, Samir Kanal, Loretta Smith, and Steve Novick, and in a last-minute nomination, Councilor Jamie Dunphy. He reluctantly accepted.
This is not something that I have been seeking and is not something I am excited about.
Just before 1:30 Wednesday afternoon, Council elected Dunphy as the new council president. He received 9 votes.
I'm willing, not happy, but willing to do this in service of this institution.
Council also elected District 4's Olivia Clark as vice president. Dunphy says she will be deeply involved in the work ahead.
There is far more work to be done and far more issues than we can ever actually realistically deal with in my 1 year that I will be council president, because I'm not doing this again.
Okay, joining me now live in studio is Council President Jamie Dunphy. President Dunphy, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so your message this week has been very clear. You never wanted this job. But some Portlanders, they hear that and then they worry about their leadership. So what do you want to say directly to them tonight?
I'm worried about the city. I want to make sure that the city is successful. We had a pretty ugly process to try and nominate a president, and we have a lot of really serious challenges as a city that we need to face. And so I'm ready to face this moment and to turn the council president not into a hyper-political role, but into a facilitator. I need the city council to work. The city needs the city council to work. We need to start passing legislation and responding to the real crises that we're facing. So I'm looking for how to implement processes that will share power and keep the trains running on time.
Why were you so reluctant to accept this role?
I have a lot of reasons. First, I thought that there were some immensely qualified members who actively wanted it. I gave my support to Councilor Samir Kanal because I think he's a brilliant policy thinker and a systems thinker, and he knows Robert's rules better than almost anybody else, and I thought he would have been really great. I'm also a policy nerd. I really have grown up, in my career wanting to do policy work, and I came here to this job to both do really good, deep policy work and to represent East Portland, my neighbors who have never been represented in any meaningful way. And I really wanted to focus year 2 on getting some policy wins and really showing up for our neighbors. And so it wasn't my priority to try and manage this unruly body. I'm going to find a way to do both.
Yeah, I was about to say, will you still have time, you think, to do all of that policy work for East Portland?
Not nearly as much as I would hope. In my previous situation, I was on 4 policy committees. I was able to get really meaningfully into the weeds on a lot of stuff, and I know I'm not going to be able to do a lot of that. But there are some policies that I have actively been working on that I intend to see all the way through to the finish. I probably just won't pick up any new projects this year.
So for viewers at home, what does a council president actually do?
Yeah. Ideally, this is a facilitator that helps move the work of the city council forward, setting the agenda, collaborating with the mayor's office and understanding the work that is coming from the bureaus and getting onto the council in meaningful ways, scheduling work sessions, working with the council clerk. It is really supposed to be a very administrative job. In other bodies, depending on their composition, sometimes it's a very powerful position, like the Speaker of the House. I don't want to run the city council that way. I think that we have 12 amazing, brilliant elected officials who all have their own priorities, and we should have systems that work to facilitate that, each of those opportunities. So I want to see this just as a very ministerial, boring job.
You also, one of your duties is setting the council agenda.
Right.
So what sort of issues will rise to the top of your priorities for that agenda?
First, I'm going to look to the leadership of the different committees about the work that they are advancing, because I think that it's not my job to decide what is most important or to prioritize things based on politics or whatever the issue of the day is. a city councilor files a bill and it goes to committee and the committee votes on it and it gets into my queue to decide where to put it, I'm going to put it first in, first out. We're just going to hear these things as they come up. And I will work with the leaders of all of the different committees in order to set an agenda and set a flow and try to make sure that we are all involved in that. Beyond that, though, we do have evening council sessions on the once a month. They start at 6:30, and it allows people who can't testify during the day to
that's
come.
important to you.
It really is, and so, but that they shouldn't have to listen to non-controversial land use items. I want to pull items that are particularly ripe for public involvement and put those on those evening councils. But otherwise, I think first in, first out is typically the way we should go.
So this election process really exposed some deep divides on council. As president, will you work to reset the tone and bring council together?
Absolutely. There was a lot of ugliness, and both between councilors and what we saw also in the audience at home that was affecting a lot of the tone that was happening. One of the first things I am working on is implementing the city council's priority that was already passed about setting a strategic retreat, trying to have this city council have a facilitated conversation about what are our collective priorities. I didn't actually vote for this piece of legislation.
So just about a strategic retreat, what is that?
They want, Councilor Ryan and Councilor Koyama Lane introduced a resolution asking for the city council to intentionally have a priority setting exercise. So what it's going to look like is a public work session. It will be a facilitated conversation with the councilors. We have to have a public meeting because that is a thing. And so it will be announced and we'll have all the details about it. But there is a strong desire by this council to have a coming together moment, to not have a kumbaya moment, but to identify what are our priorities. What collectively do we need to work on in this next year? And in reality, what do we need to prioritize in this budget? Because this upcoming budget is going to be very bad.
So you think more conversation with the councilors, will these be private conversations or in front of the public?
It'll have to be a public conversation. It'll be a work session. Okay. It will have to be facilitated and there won't be testimony or anything. And we're working out the details right now. But the city administrator is involved to help us facilitate this.
So we just watched, an ongoing gridlock during this election. What specifically needs to change so that doesn't happen next year? You've already said you're not running again.
What needs to change right now is that councilors need to learn how to build those relationships now and start counting to 7 today. Obviously, there is a lot of relationship work that needs to happen, and there are some very talented city councilors who have expressed an interest in being that future city council president. I hope that they start working on that now and being able to convince their colleagues that they are reliable people. I think that part of the reason why I was, by default, selected as the council president is partially because I have demonstrated over the last year my ability to work with all my colleagues despite maybe some ideological differences. And I hope that whoever is thinking about being the next city council president really prioritizes that work and starts that work now.
And speaking of those differences, you've been part of the Progressive Caucus, known as Peacock, but you have said that you'll take a step back from that. How will you balance those values while leading the full council?
Yeah, I'm still a progressive. I still firmly believe in the progressive values, and that my job is to stand up for workers and for average people against the systems that are built not to serve them. I still want to see the people in East Portland be remembered, that we are important, that we are not just demographics or the worst things that are said about us. And I want to stand in the way of corporations and lobbyists that do not have the best interests of my neighbors in mind. I want to try and bring community values to where we are instilling, where we are using public dollars. I want to build housing. I want to build jobs and infrastructure that meets where the people are. That's not controversial, I don't think. But those are good progressive values, and we have to lead from that position. I do this work from a values standpoint, and I understand where I stand, and that will influence all my policy work, but I also believe in good government. And as city council president, my job is to make sure that this government serves those people.
Let's talk homelessness now. I believe you met with the mayor this week to talk about his shelter goals. He opened 1,500 new overnight shelter beds last year. You've said you want to focus on what comes next. So let's listen to what you had to say about this yesterday.
We have to figure out what happens at 6 a.m. or 8 a.m. when that person who had an overnight shelter bed is kicked out for the morning. Who's meeting them on the sidewalk? Who is saying, hey, where are you going today? Now that we have an inventory of overnight shelters, we need to move forward with best practices and figure out what that is. And I am going to be very intentional with the mayor about finding out what those next steps are and how he plans to use a diminishing pot of money and an increasing problem against an increasing problem.
Okay, so what you just said right there, a shrinking pot of money against a growing problem. So are you expecting less funding for shelters and homelessness services specifically in the next budget?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the federal situation right now, the president is threatening every federal dollar, including homeless service dollars, addiction service dollars, mental health service dollars, and cuts to Social Security and Medicare that are going to absolutely devastate some of the safety net that we have built. Many of these providers rely on billing the Oregon Health Plan in order to get compensation for the services they're providing. And the legislature is about to have to take a chainsaw to the Oregon Health Plan and remove almost $800 million, I believe, just from Oregon alone. On top of that, property taxes are lower. We're going to have an enormous budget hole next year across the board. And we're going to have to do some priority setting. And we know that a lot of the funds that come from Metro and the state and from Multnomah County, those pots are starting to dry up. It is a perfect storm in a lot of ways. And we are also seeing that while all of the dollars that are being spent have got 1,100 people a month off the streets, 1,400 people are still falling into homelessness every month. And the mayor has met his shelter goal. Now we have to figure out what comes next.
What does success look like for you in this position 6 months from now? 6
months from now, I hope that we have systems. I hope that the council is passing legislation. I hope that we aren't having a lot of bickering and getting lost in the weeds of process or personal politics or personal grievance. I want the trains to be running on time. We are going to have increasing challenges. In 6 months, we will hopefully have passed a budget. It's going to be hard, and we need those systems to have worked. And I hope that in 6 months from now, we start really pivoting to how are we going to rebuild, how are we going to continue to make promises to the people we were sent here and meet this moment against some real headwinds.
Okay, Council President Dunphy, thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
And best of luck in this new role.
Thank you.
Okay, now it is your turn. Did anything you hear tonight stand out? How confident are you in Portland City Council right now? And what issues do you want council to focus on? Let us know. Email the story at kgw.com or call and leave us a voicemail, 503-226-5090.